Welcome to Leadershipedelics Season 2 Part 2. I'm Sebastian Fouillade. Join me every week to explore the intersection between deep spiritual experiences and leadership. Leadership in the sense of how do you manifest a better future for yourself, for your family, for your community, and for others. So join me every week as I interview guests who've had those hardships, those journeys, those heroes' journeys, and they share the insights that they've gained along the way. Insights meant to inspire us, meant to awaken us, meant to help us build a better future. Hi everyone, special announcement. As you know, I'm organizing the Sacred Creativity Retreat this October in Peru with a super talented team. This retreat is intended to help people reconnect with their authentic creative selves. We've planned art and music workshops, brain mapping, planned ceremonies, and so much more. It's all in a beautiful private location in Peru. This is going to be a small group, less than 10 people, probably about 4 to 6 people, so we can give everyone the attention and care that they need. We've just started preparations and are stopping to take new applications at the end of August. So if this is something you're interested in or you feel called for, check out our site, sacredcreativityretreat.com, and maybe I'll see some of you there. In today's episode, I traveled to Sedona to meet with Martin de Bókay for a live video interview in the beautiful Red Rocks right next to Cathedral Rock. Martin, who goes by French Guru on Instagram, was someone I had to meet. After watching a few of his videos where he reflected on life during his morning hikes, it was clear he'd done a lot of deep personal work and had had quite a journey. Sure enough, the story he shared was nothing short of inspiring and energizing. Martin spent half his life in Europe and half in the US. He's worked as a producer in the film industry in Hollywood on music videos, films, documentaries, TV shows, and followed his dreams to make films. On all accounts, he had it all. But it all came to a head when he realized he wasn't honoring his core self and felt a strong calling to elevate himself and bring alignment to his life. He eventually crossed paths with the plant medicine Ayahuasca, and then everything changed. This is his story. This is a beautiful interview. I recommend watching it if you can. Enjoy. Martin, welcome to Leadershipedelics. I'm so glad we could connect. This is kind of a strange story, so Thank you.
Thank you, Seb. Thank you, Seb. I'm so grateful that you're having me here, and everything just happened so quickly and so briefly and so serendipitously. I feel like everything aligned for us to be here right now. So
yeah, it was magical. So, we're in this beautiful place, surrounded by red rocks. We were just talking about that. Everything in bloom, the colors. I mean, you're so blessed here.
Yeah. Sedona is a really magical place. And you can't tell right now, but Cathedral Rock is right behind this. We just had to take a little bit of cover because there's a lot of wind.
Yeah, no.
We found a little nook.
It's like the nooks kept on getting better and better as we were looking for them.
As we explored.
And this is like the ultimate nook after three tries.
The ultimate nook.
But it's funny, how we connected is really interesting because there's this artist we both follow, Parengi, who happens to live in Sedona.
Yeah.
And you put a comment on one of his posts, and we're both following him. And I saw your Instagram handle was French Guru. And I was like, French Guru, I gotta meet with French Guru here. And I started following you, and I saw a few posts of a lot of humble, calm wisdom in the middle of nature after a hike. And I could see that you had been on a journey and you'd done a lot of work. And I was like, I got to talk with this French Guru. And so here we are.
Here we are. I feel like hikes in Sedona are very conductive to spiritual realization. I try to do one big hike a week, 2, 3, 4 hours. Just to clear my mind and kind of process what I've been going through that week and kind of reflect and see where I'm at and where I'm going. Because everything is moving so fast. And it's pretty incredible that with all the different places that I've lived throughout my life, that, the big cities, New York, Miami, Los Angeles, Paris, Berlin, huge cities, millions of people, so many activities going on. And these are cities where life goes fast. But Sedona is on another level, because it's not that it goes fast, it's that things happen fast to you. And if you're aware of it and if you're open to it, then anything that you think of, you will manifest it. And you will have the opportunity to very quickly take on what you want to take on. And I feel like maybe this has been the right time for me to be here, even though I've known Sedona for 5 years and I've been taking road trips and I've been camping here. You know, I was driving from LA, it's 8-9 hour drive, and I would just camp in my car on the 525, and I would just go on hikes and meet people. My sister used to live here, and I always had a really strong pull, but I never imagined I could actually live here. And this past year, I mean, ever since COVID, right, we've all been completely displaced from what we thought was our nest, and it really forced us to think more deeply about where we want to be. You know, if everything around us crashes, where do we feel safe? Where is home? And I realized, you know, when COVID hit and I was living in Los Angeles and I lost my job, I lost my apartment, I was completely broke, I had nowhere to go. I thought there's no way I can be in LA. I don't feel safe. I don't have my family. Life is so expensive. So I went to Mexico. I went to Tulum and I stayed there for 3 months. Did a lot of really deep work, meditation every day, lots of reflection. And I realized, okay, I gotta find my place. I'm at a point in my life where I gotta find my place, and it doesn't sound like it's in any of these big cities that I've been in, because even though they had been incredible learning experiences, I never felt like I was really in the right place, and always felt a bit transitory. And I started thinking about, where could that be? Where could that place be? And I'm from Europe. I'm from Paris. You know, I spent half of my life in Europe and half of my life in the United States. And I've always had this internal battle going back and forth. All right, do I want to be in Europe? Do I want to be in the States? And I'm always trying these different cities, and I could never really find the right fit. Because I love the European culture, right? So much. I love Europe so much. But the American mindset, that really pushes you to become the better version of yourself. Yeah. I love that, and I want to embody that. And when I'm in this country, I really feel like it's ever present. So it's like, it's forcing me to be in that space. But the big cities, I didn't resonate with them. And I don't know, just, I don't know why I hadn't thought of Sedona any sooner. but when last year, when I started exploring all of that, and I came through, I was on my way to Taos in New Mexico, and I got through Sedona for the 10th time or something, and I fell sick, and I could leave because I couldn't even drive. That's how sick I was. So I stayed in bed.
It's pulling you back here.
Pulling me back. Stayed in bed for 3 days in a super cute hotel in Sedona with amazing view, and I realized, where am I going? Why do I want to be anywhere else than here? And so then I went back to LA and I started making my plans. You know, what would it look like if I quit my job? You know, what could I do if I was recapturing all of my time? What could I do with it? How could I create my life so that I can be master of my time, master of my movements, and create a life for myself that supports me and also inspires me? Because I want to be inspired by what I do. And I realized, and I think I was completely...
What were you doing before in LA?
Yeah, I was working in the film industry, Hollywood. I was a producer. I was doing a lot of music videos. I did films, I did documentaries, series, TV shows. But I think my main center of activity was mostly music videos. So these past couple years, I was working with this French company, actually. Headquarters are in Paris, very successful in France and Europe. And we have a little company in Venice and in Los Angeles, and we do lots of French artists, European artists that want to come shoot in California and New York and all over the country. And lately we've also worked a lot with pretty big American artists. I did Billie Eilish, 3 or 4 of her music videos. We did Halsey's latest album, her whole album live stream. We did John Mayer. So it was really cool.
Were there insights about yourself that as you were working in this industry, you gained and made you kind of maybe change your perspective on the industry, on like, the reason you went into it in the first place?
Yeah. And not a good one. When I left Paris to move to Los Angeles, my idea was to be in Hollywood and make big films. And that was very exciting, that was very inspiring. And the more time I spent in that industry, the more I realized I didn't align with it. And really...
Which part of you didn't align?
My core.
Your core.
And it's very unfortunate because a lot of people do a lot of really amazing things in Hollywood, and you don't always get to meet them. And there are a lot of people that work from a very dark place, and I could really feel that in my work, and it was actually slowly eroding my passion for what I was doing. And I think last year, towards the end of last year, early this year, that's when I got this big breakthrough, and I realized I think what kept me in Los Angeles wanting to make films for all these years was my ego. And somehow there was a part of me that I was completely oblivious to, that was trying to prove to the world that I could do it, and that I could make a big film and I could be famous in Hollywood, and that all came from a place of ego.
How did you get that breakthrough? Like, was it meditation when you were in Tulum, or was it like...
Yeah, totally. Actually, so before going to Tulum, I had just scored, we're going to rewind a little bit. Just a few months before COVID is when I participated in an ayahuasca ceremony for the first time in my life. And that was such a huge breakthrough. I feel like there was a before Aya and an after Aya in my life.
Can we slow down on that part and paint that picture out? Because this is so important on even how that unfolds, and some of those experiences are so beautiful. Can you put a few brush strokes to it from the preparation time and how you got introduced to it?
Preparation. Ever since I ever heard the word ayahuasca, I had been intrigued by it, and I was like, what is that? and why is it that every time I hear it, there's this energy around the conversation that I'm so drawn towards? I think the first time I ever heard about it was maybe 2017 or 2016, actually, maybe before I moved to LA. I was in LA on vacation and I heard about it, and I was like, I don't understand it. It sounds scary, but it sounds amazing at the same time. And I kind of brushed it to the side until it started coming back to me when I moved to LA, and through my connections and friendships, and with Burning Man and Malibu, Topanga, and Venice, a really great vibe of people over there. It just so happens that I was able to join a ceremony. I was invited, and I was very blessed. And I take things very seriously. Sometimes I have to pull myself out because I'm taking life a little bit too seriously.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I'm very organized. I'm very to the letter, to the T. And so when they said you need to prepare, I was like, yeah, I'll prepare. So it was 2 weeks of dieting and not eating, salt, sugar, processed food, animal products. It basically veganism, but even deeper. No coffee, no kind of exciting elements in your body at all. No sex. So
quinoa and kale.
Yeah, basically, and not cooked, so raw. So not a great diet. Definitely not. But I was ready. I was definitely ready. And when I drank it,
Was it a nighttime ceremony, and what was the setting there?
Yeah, we so they rented a house in very remote location, no neighbors, really comfortable house with multiple rooms and lots of trees around it, so very peaceful, no outside noise. And one of the reasons why I had waited so long to do it was because I always felt like I needed to go to Peru or Brazil or the Amazon and to get the full experience. But actually, more and more, I was meeting people that were telling me that I didn't necessarily have to do that, and I didn't really understand it until I did it, and I realized it doesn't really matter where you are; it matters who you're doing it with, and as long as the setting is peaceful and safe and as much of a natural environment as possible, you're going to that place no matter what. You drink it, you're going. You're gone, right? So whether you're in Peru or you're in Los Angeles or you're in Hong Kong, you're going. You're going there, and you will get the download of information that you need at that point in time. And for me, it was a huge wake-up call. It was a huge wake-up call because even though I had always considered myself a hard worker, and I was working hard in the film industry and everything, I felt like maybe I had forgotten a little bit about my passion. I had forgotten a little bit about my voice, and I wasn't translating that enough into my work. And basically what Aya told me was, if you're not going to say what you feel, nobody is. And it is your duty and your responsibility to bring that out into the world. And so that was a really huge wake-up call for me. And from that moment on, I've been waking up with so much energy in the morning, more so than any time before in my life. There were some times in Paris, for example, when I was working in advertising, I used to drag my feet to work. And I was working for one of the best advertising agencies in the world on the Champs-Élysées with the most amazing view you could think of, right? And I was dragging my feet to work and I couldn't understand. I was like, why does life suck? And I got all my answers.
Yeah, amen to that. I can relate to that. I mean, when I was working at Microsoft, which is a very reputable company, a lot of people aim to go work there. I would get brain fog. It's almost like my subconscious would drag me and pull me away from going to work every day. I would feel sick. I would feel like, what am I doing here? It's like I should be happy. I've accomplished what a lot of people want.
Yeah.
And
everybody tells you that.
And everybody tells you that. You should be happy.
You're in a good place.
This is a good job. It's like, but it's not aligned with me. What do you mean? I was like, well, those aren't my core values. I don't share them. And so I can completely relate to what you went through. And it's, and ayahuasca was also a big part for me to kind of expose those misalignments and also how far you've come from maybe where you started and what you wanted initially.
And now I realize in retrospect that nothing is ever definite, and what we think our goal is today may not be the goal tomorrow. But I think what's really important is to be in alignment with your goal today. Yeah. And keep aligning yourself to this ever evolving goal, stepping goal that you have. And every new experience that you have will bring some new perspective and new depth into your thinking, into your believing, into your wanting to be. And then that moves the goalpost, and then that moves your goal, and then that moves your alignment. Yeah. If you're aware and you're conscious of it. And I think perhaps in the past, a lot of the times I would decide what my goal was, and then I would be so stuck in that I would be completely oblivious to what would happen around me. Yeah. And that would create the disalignment. Yeah. And that would create the frustration. And that would create the fog. Going to work in one of these amazing companies out there that is doing a lot of good, but you're like, I don't feel it. Yeah. I don't feel it. I don't connect with it. So how can I bring the best of myself in something I don't believe in anymore? Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's important is to really find what it is that makes you alive and strive to do that as much as possible. Have a little bee that's coming down.
Little bugs
joining.
Are loving us, giving us some love. There's a few things there that you touched on that One is where people do ceremonies and how far they go to do them, which I think is also a reflection I had, because when I did my first ceremony it was with local Native American tribes through the Native American church.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was extremely powerful. And I always wondered, I was like, why do people need to go that far to do their own ceremonies? And it actually took me a few years to figure out that people need their hero's journey. And what shape it takes. For some people, it is traveling far. For some people, it might just be enough to do it locally, because like you were saying, you'll get the download here just like you might get it there. But there's so much into set and settings that if you're playing that hero's journey in your mind, you're like going to the deep jungle of Peru, and you know, it does change your experience too a little bit. But it took me a while to get there, because I'm like, it's really how you build that journey for yourself. And so I enjoy you kind of reflecting on that, because it's true. It's like you know, it's almost like the autobiography of a yogi, where he travels to the mountains and then you realize, you know, his guru is like right down the street. And there's the French guru here, but it's, you know, it's so true. And so that's the first thing. But the second thing that I'm very curious about is, you had those big downloads during your ceremony.
Yeah.
How did you correlate these back to the reality you were in when you left the ceremony? Like when you went back to life, like how much of like you identified a disconnect. How did you work with that and put it forth to kind of manifest where you're at now? Because it's hard for some people sometimes.
It is. It is. I think it's hard for everyone, because the messages that we get when we're in that space are some of the most profound messages that we've ever gotten, at least up to that point. Yeah. So it's a real breakthrough. It's a real shift in paradigm, right? And it's like you weren't even you didn't even think that it was there. But then you were showed that it was there, and now you can't ignore it anymore, because you know, you've seen it, you've experienced it. Yeah. With ayahuasca, it's not just seeing, it's not intellectual, right? Like LSD, or it's very intellectual, and you can get a lot of really good downloads through it. But ayahuasca is experiential. You're there, you're in that space, and your entire being is experiencing it. And then once you come back, and you have that with you, it never leaves you. You can ignore it. Yeah. But you will hate yourself for ignoring it.
Exactly, at your own risk. And I've done that too. I've tried to ignore the calling, and I just went deeper in depression after that.
Yeah. So for me it was a real. It's like a light had been turned on, and I knew before going into it that there was something out there for me, but I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know what shape it had. And I had no idea it was going to be so simple and so direct. And that's what works for me, right? And that's the beauty of ayahuasca, is that it works in different ways for everyone, because it's adapted to your makeup. And my makeup needs simple, direct, actionable thoughts. And now I had that, and I realized, okay, I can't be lazy anymore. I have this duty that I must show up for, and every day is going to be trying to show up more, and trying to do just a little more, step by step. And I can't even believe it's only been like a year and a half.
Wow. So you've done a lot of work.
2019, 2 years and a half. 2 years and a half. Yeah, 2 years and a half.
But still, it's like you were still in the film industry?
Yeah.
Then?
I was still in the film industry, and then I came back. But I was in the film industry, but I was in a very depressive state. I had worked for 1 year. I worked on a documentary on the Pope Francis, and I got to go to the Vatican, and I traveled for a year, following on his footsteps. And that was one of the most interesting projects I had ever worked on in my life. But everything came to a stop early 2019, and I couldn't understand why. and that really threw me off on my quest to make films in Hollywood. And I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was in the right place. I thought I was working with the right people, and I didn't understand why it's all of a sudden it just evaporated, and I was left with nothing and no credit. And I had worked for 1 year, and it was. I went downhill from there, and it took me multiple months to pull myself out of it. And finally, when ayahuasca came to me, I was at that point where I was starting to understand. Okay, just don't try not to stay in that dark place. But then ayahuasca was like the wake up call. Like, okay, it's over now. There's no such thing as a dark place unless you want it to be a thing. So just look the other way and start going in that direction. And ever since
Sedona. Start driving.
It brought me here. Eventually. Yeah. So I worked a little bit more in the film industry after that, but with a completely different mindset, because now I knew this wasn't my end goal.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had something to learn from it, because there was a reason for me being in it. But I had to become more conscious about the reason why I was there in the first place. And that's how I came to the realization that my ego put me there. Yeah. So I had to work on dissolving that ego and work on realizing, okay, if my ego put me there, what is it that drives me now?
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, I lost everything. That was right after ayahuasca. I went to Tulum and I meditated for 3 months. And I learned Spanish. I was really happy about that, because it's something I had been wanting to do for a long time. But it's hard to learn a language if you're not living in that community, in that culture. And so I used that opportunity. I thought, okay, I don't have a job. I don't really have a lot of money. Everything's closed. It's COVID. I'm surrounded by Mexicans. I'm going to learn Spanish. So that was one of my main goals. I wrote a script. I was still very much about wanting to do films, even though it was coming now from a more creative perspective, because I was just producing in the past, and now I was more into writing and creating.
Do you feel your creativity changed? Like, where you got your source of creativity, was it more centered? And did you feel that translating in how you work and create from the experience of meditation and ayahuasca?
I'm a very shy individual, and I know people don't really see that, because I've done a lot of work putting myself in situations where I had to be around people and I had to have conversations, no matter how hard it was for me. But this shyness translates in my lack of creativity, because for a very long time I was too afraid to express how I felt. And put that in an art form, because I didn't feel like it was valid. Ayahuasca opened that up for me by saying, if you're not the one speaking it and putting it out there, nobody is. It is your own core values. It is your personality. It is your makeup. It is your being that can create that. Nobody else can create that, right? Because it's so unique. So if you're not going to express this uniqueness, then it's going to be lost. And there is going to be someone out there that is going to be inspired by that message that you're conveying.
Absolutely.
So it really, ayahuasca really helped me into being more creative. And that's why I wrote this script. It's a science fiction film noir, and I spent 6 months writing it, and it's 200 pages with my co-writer. And it was really amazing and journey. And what was funny is that the intention was to write a film so I could make a film. But once I was done writing it, I was like, I'm done. I don't even need to make anything with it. I just know that I did it, and I just know that I wrote a script, and I'm just so proud, and I'm so happy that I did it. I can just move on with my life, and now I don't need to stay attached to the outcome, because I know that I went through the process and I learned through the process, and I know that I can do it. And if I've done it once, I can repeat it again if needed. So, so that was a huge check for me.
That's beautiful. Like, okay, so how did the people around you, your family, your friends, how did they react to all the changes you were going through, and how did that pan out in your relationships?
It's been very surprising, to say the least. First of all, there's been a lot of cleaning up in my life. I had always, as I was saying earlier, sometimes I take life a little bit too seriously, and I live up to a certain code and with certain standards, and obviously that acts as a filter in my life. And there's some people for whom this doesn't work out, and it acts as a natural filter, right? It's just we don't have to be enemies. We can just be friends from a distance, right? We just respect each other and we do our own thing. So that was already part of my life, but after ayahuasca, it was even more clear that I had to be extremely careful as to whom I was sharing my time with.
Absolutely.
And you human beings rub on each other, right? So the people you spend time with is detrimental to what your life will be.
Or enriching. Or enriching.
Enriching, yeah, detrimental, enriching. It's a plus or a minus, and you gotta figure this out for yourself. Yeah. What works for you, and how can people add value to your life, and in return you add value to them. It has to be a two-way street. It cannot be one way. So, there's the takers and there's the givers, and I've always been a giver, and maybe in the past I used to give too much, so that I would drain myself out of my own energy because I was around people that were just there to take, and I was giving because I wanted to give, right? And I'm generous, and I want to give, I want to help, but sometimes if it's not two ways, then eventually you're going to deplete yourself of your energy. So I guess I became a lot more present to that, and that natural filter became even stronger. So I definitely lost a lot of friends, but lovingly, right? We just part ways. We're not spending as much time together. We're not speaking as much anymore, and that's okay. And we each have our own path. And now my path is this, and I will choose consciously to surround myself with people that are also on that path, and that's because I realize how important it is for me to be the best version of myself. And if I can be the best version of myself, then I can give the most of myself. So it is, you gotta be protective of your own self so that you can give yourself. It's a very ironic position to be in, but once you realize that, every single interaction you have can bring something into your life, and you can bring something into somebody else's life, and you got to make the most of it. You got to be present to it. I mean, just like us meeting now and having this interview. I mean, how beautiful, how amazing is this?
I mean, it's very sacred because you're letting that energy within you and your mind and those connections that happen. Like, this is a sacred place inside your body, your mind and soul. So every interaction you have, whether it's with people, the media, the place you go to, that leaves a mark. And I think we get desensitized to that with the frenzy of everything that happens in life. But you gotta honor that. You gotta honor the beautiful self you can be, and the fact that there's impacts on who you are with at the cellular level. It was.
That's how deep it goes.
It's very deep. I mean, I had a deep mushroom experience, and I could feel like, all your cells react to the sound, to the energy that is around you. And it's not being judgmental to select who you want to spend time. It's honoring the self, like in my mind.
It's a really beautiful way to put it.
So people were seeing you change. You were kind of going through that reorganizing of your relationship and the energies around you, and how did you end up in Sedona?
So it's never in a million years would I have thought that I would have moved to Arizona. I was born in Paris. I grew up on the French Riviera. I lived in Miami, New York, Berlin, Paris, Los Angeles, and now I'm in Arizona. Like, out of all the places, It feels like in the middle of nowhere, but at the same time, it is such a gem. And it took me a while to recognize that this gem was actually my gem. So after this experience, this reflective, introspective experience in Tulum, when I came back to LA, I had already planned to leave LA. And I was actually thinking of going to Berlin again. And on the day of my flight, someone I had worked with in the past, the boss of this French company, a French producing company, told me to come have coffee with him. And that was literally the morning of my flight to Berlin. And after an hour conversation over coffee, he offered me a job. And I was like, do I have, like, can I still go to Berlin? Can I still go to Europe for the summer? Or how does that work? He's like, no, can you start tomorrow? I was like, damn, okay, that's a way to pull me back into LA. And I love him. I love his company, HK Corp. I love all the projects I had done with them. So that was kind of my dream job. It's
like a test.
It's like a test. It's like, the universe was testing me. All right, do you really want this? I was like, okay, I guess I can try it. Now that it's presented to me in this way, which is the best way that I had imagined it, I'll take it. Like, full-time job as a producer in a music video production company with a bunch of French people. That sounds so amazing. That sounds so cool. Okay, I'll do it. And I did it, and it was so much fun. But I already knew that I wasn't going to stay in LA.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of relief, because I wasn't fighting as much anymore. Because before I was fighting to make it work, and I didn't understand. I was frustrating why it wasn't working out, why I was always broke, why I could never really do the projects I wanted to do. And now I had all of that. And I knew that it wasn't going to be permanent. And I knew that it was a phase, and that I would move from that phase. And so what really got me to Sedona was one of the realizations I had in this 3-month meditative period in Tulum was, I was 30 in 2020 when COVID hit. And I think it was the 4th time in my life that I lost my job, I lost my place, and I was broke. And that sucked. And I realized I'm 30 now. I can't joke around. I'm not in my 20s. I'm not joking around. If I ever want to build a family, if I ever want to raise kids, how can I do so if I'm 30 and I'm broke and I'm again back to square one? How do I elevate myself from that? And I had to do a lot of digging and a lot of self-realization that I had due to my culture, being raised in France. I had a lot of aversion to money, and I had a lot of aversion to success. And the French don't really value that. The French value living, in communities, living with their friends and their families, and enjoying life and having good food and celebrating. And that's so beautiful and remarkable, and I love it. And at the same time, it's also a hindrance to actually moving things forward. And that's what the United States bring, right? With the mindset, the American mindset. And so I realized, okay, I chose to be in the US for a reason, but I came to the US with my background as a Frenchman, and I'm bringing my culture into the US and and so frustrated as to why is the US not more like France and Europe? I don't understand it. No, these two things can be two separate things. Yeah. France can be one thing, and the US can be one thing. And if I want to be in the US, and if I'm serious about being in the US, I also have to adopt that mindset a little more. So I did a lot of reading of business books, which is something I had never done before. All I had ever read in my 20s were spiritual books, biographies and self-realization books. And that was a huge help in the development of my spirituality. And now I had felt like I was in a pretty good place spiritually, and I was pretty conscious and aware of myself. But my application in the world, in the society that we live in, you know, this capitalistic society, my application was null. It was horrible. It wasn't working out at all because I was broke for the fourth time in my life and back to without having anything. And I was like, okay, I got to figure this thing out. And I know that if I give myself a goal and I really stick to it, I know I can figure it out. I know I can learn about it. And I read a lot of books. And I started reframing my conversation around money and around success. And I realized, okay, maybe I've been a little bit careless in my spending. Maybe I was a little bit too emotional in my spending. You know, if, for example, I was making, you know, a certain amount of money and my living expenses were just matching that, then anytime anything unexpected would happen, it would draw me back. Yeah. Right? Because I didn't have any savings and my expenses were as much as my income. So I wasn't really protecting myself against the unexpected, because the unexpected will happen. Yeah, yeah. That is what this universe is. You like expect the unexpected, right? And how do you protect yourself against that? And how do you create a safety net so that when it does happen, because it will, you have weapons to fight back and to protect yourself. And so I went back to LA with this completely different mindset. I was like, okay, I have a full-time job. You know, it's not the best pay in the world, but it's a pay. Yeah. And how do I now reduce my expenses so that instead of living month to month like I used to, I'm slowly starting to build a little nest for myself. So I went from wanting to live in a cool Venice spot to living on a boat. That was the cheapest way I found to live in LA. And I was in Marina del Rey, right? It's still very beautiful and very cool. I'm just on a boat, right? So it's very rudimentary. It doesn't
sound so bad.
It's very rudimentary. It doesn't sound so bad to us because we're French and we enjoy the good things in life, and you know, and I made it work. But you know, to most people here, that sounds horrible. You know, you don't really have a room, you don't really have a bathroom, you're on a deck and it's moving, and you know there's all these elements around you that you got to be. So it was an adjustment, right? It wasn't easy, and when I first got to the boat, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Am I going to be able to sustain this? But eventually I found my groove and I found my comfort, and you know, and I made the boat more livable, and I started bringing trinkets and decorations and making it chill, and so I actually grew up to really loving living on the boat. And where I got really lucky is that the office was in Venice and my boat was in Marina del Rey, so I stopped using my car and I just rode my bike. So my living expenses were half of what they used to be, because I was living on the boat and I was using my bike instead of having a nice apartment or house and driving a car. And just that alone allowed me to start saving a little bit of money every month. Nice. Saving. And I did that for 2 years. And finally, when I was able to do that, and with all these savings, I bought a house. And I couldn't buy a house in Los Angeles, all right, because the market is really crazy. Minimum purchase price is like $1 million for a shack. And I knew I didn't want to be in LA, so there was no reason for me to buy and invest in LA. But so I started looking at different markets around the United States and studying the markets, and I realized Sedona, Arizona, it's still way below where it is in LA and in other high expensive places in the United States. But it is beautiful, and I've been drawn to it for many years. Why don't I just start investing here? And I bought my first place in Cornville. And then 6 months later, I bought a second place in Cottonwood. And that was just last year. And then when this year started, 2022, I realized I could keep on doing that. I could keep on having this job in LA and doing something that I wasn't really feeling aligned with anymore, and continue investing out of state and being remote. But I also felt so drawn to Sedona, and it was so much fun for me learning how to navigate this whole these financial instruments and these assets, and reframing my knowledge and my understanding of money, and how I can use money to advance myself in my goals in life. And then when the year started, I just quit my job, and I had no plans, and I just moved here. I was like, you know what? I already got 2 houses. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna go to Sedona because it's just, the call is too big. Yeah. I cannot ignore it anymore. It was taking away my life energy being in LA, working in the film industry, when I knew that there was something else out there that was calling me and that I was ignoring.
Yeah.
And I came, at the beginning of this year, I came to a point where that call was too big to ignore, and the pain for not living up to it was too great. Yeah. And I had to quit. Yeah. And I quit, and I just took my car and moved here. Yeah. And now that's all I do. I do real estate. And
then you've said since you got here, a lot of serendipitous things have been happening.
Yeah, I
mean, like this.
I'm as fulfilled as I've ever been in my life. I feel as present as I've ever felt in my life. I feel as empowered as I've ever felt in my life, because now I am my own boss. I get to decide how I'm going to spend my day. Right now it's Wednesday morning and we're having an interview, in the middle of the Red Rocks. I should be in an office in a cubicle somewhere, but no, I'm here in the Red Rocks having an interview with awesome people. Like I made that happen. And the more you start to operate control over your actions and over your life, the more rewarding it becomes. Yeah. And that's why in these just few short 2-3 months that I've been here, so much has already happened, because one thing leads to another, and now I'm open to it, and I get to choose if I want to do it or not. Yeah. But I choose it consciously. Like, yes, this aligns. No, this doesn't align.
No, that's beautiful. If you, and maybe you just answered that, if you were going to give like one advice to your younger self, like 20-year-old self, and how to approach the future and manifest that future, what would that advice be?
I would say, listen to your internal voice. Listen to your internal voice more than you listen to other people. Yeah. Actually, don't even listen to other people. don't listen to what they say. That's just their opinion. All right, they don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you feel. Don't listen to them. Respectfully listen, and then consciously choose to apply it to your life or not. To take it in or don't. It's just a feedback. Yeah. It's just somebody else's opinion about a situation that they don't have all the information on. You are the one with all of the information. So your feelings are as true and as real as any other thing that happens around you. And if you choose to listen to that, and if you choose to act on that, then you will feel empowered in that you build confidence in yourself. And that's one thing that I was missing in my 20s, was confidence. I had none. Yeah. I had none. I was always so scared and so shy. And anytime I had this crazy creative project that I wanted to do, I let other people talk me down, talk me out of it, because it was too crazy, or it was too big, or there was no way I could do something like that, because, what was my background? What proof did I have that I could make that happen? Yeah. You don't have any proof until you do it. Yeah. And now that is exactly how I'm living my life. I had no idea I was going to be in real estate. I had no idea I was going to be in Arizona. I had no idea I was going to be in Sedona, but there was a calling. Yeah. And I chose to listen to that calling.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And every day to act on it. And beautiful. It keeps on growing and growing and growing. And now the momentum is building, and it feels so good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Do you miss the boat?
I miss the boat. I miss the ocean. I miss surfing. That was my big thing. Also, I stopped, in reducing my expenses. I stopped going out. I stopped drinking. I stopped having fun, partying, dating. I stopped all of it. I had no life. It was just me and my work and my boat and my surfboard. So I definitely missed that. My friend Peter, who I surfed with every weekend, I definitely missed that as well. But Sedona is giving me so much that I'm completely satisfied here.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Martin, like we're almost at time. I do want to do one last thing that I've started doing on the show. It's pulling cards, and it's from this deck called the Earth Magic deck, and it's a little bit of an experiment because you never know what you're going to get. And so, I'd love to pull a card for you, and I asked you for your authorization beforehand.
Please.
And this is very simple. Like I remove a little bit of the woo-woo here to go through it, but it's asking the angels, the oracles, the powers that be to give us a message for you and for your journey that is already a beautiful journey with so much work. But it's always good to have that message and be able to reflect on it. So my wife says I have to knock 3 times on the deck to get their attention and ask them, angels, for your message for Martin and his beautiful journey. And I'll start mixing the cards here for people who are listening. So I'm mixing the cards, and whichever cards fall, hopefully I'm efficient and the angels are efficient too, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And whichever cards fall, and I'm thinking about you and your journey is oh, well,
that's a lot of cards.
That's a lot of cards. So in this case, I think my wife recommends I pick the one on the top. And she's there helping us and giving me, yes, honey, pick the one on the top. And so here's the card.
Wow, I love that.
Lotus flower. It was a beautiful lotus flower in the water, bathed with rays of sunshine and little clouds, and the meaning is unfoldment. There's some words like that. I still have my French that gets in the way. Unfoldment. Now, what does that? I mean, I could see a lot of things that Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It is a beautiful picture. I'm gonna show it to the camera. It's wow, the details in there, the sun rays especially.
Yeah.
Unfoldment. It feels like right now life is unfolding before me, and for the first time ever, I am present to that. I follow a lot of the Stoicism precepts, and one of which I believe Seneca said, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Yeah. And I think now then more than ever, I'm really understanding that, and whatever challenges appear, they appear for a reason, and they appear because you are able to take them on and tackle them and go beyond. And if the universe is presenting that, is offering that to you, then you should embrace it and learn from it and grow from it, because you will be that much stronger once you will be done with that challenge. And unfoldment, that is how my life feels right now. It feels like it is unfolding, and it is unraveling, and it is taking on such a beautiful turn. And I couldn't have been any happier with the way that events are unfolding right now.
That's beautiful. And it looks like the sun opens the lotus flower, and this beautiful flowers opens up, and it's almost like as you're letting the sun and the universe bathe that flower, it opens and it lets that beautiful core out that then bathes back the world around it. And so I can see a lot of that and what you're doing and the work you're doing, and you opening your core and the sun.
And the sun. and I'm a Leo, so the sun is my ruler, so I feel very connected to that and to what you just said.
Well, Martin.
Sébastien, merci beaucoup.
Merci, thank you. Where can people find you? I mean, I know French Guru on Instagram.
French Guru on Instagram. That's been my principal portal for sharing my life and my journey. Even though I'm not that active, I don't like spending too much time on devices and phones and computers, although they are extremely useful, and I'm so thankful for them because they're allowing me to do my job the way I do it and to connect with my friends that live abroad, and all of these places that I lived in, I get to keep in touch with them, and I'm really fortunate for that to exist. But I'm not active every day, but I guess Instagram is a good way.
Yeah, wonderful. And you have a lot of nice reflections. Not a lot, but you have a select few nice reflections that are always nice to receive. And I really like those, and it's nice to see you at peace in those reflections, and it's inspiring.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I strive to share more of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get caught up in work a little bit and I forget, but
there's no rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing the work. So
yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, please subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, follow me on Instagram at Leadershipedelics, or stop by my website and say hi at fooyad.com. That's F-O-O-Y-A-D. There's a lot going on. I've got a retreat coming up in October. I've got Flute Fridays, and I'd love to hear from you all, the listeners that tune in every week. And if you have suggestions for future guests, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm there, and I'd love to get more guests on the show. Thank you. Have a great day.